Alright, if you've been following along, we just finished up the big bulk of the work on the blade. We've got all the metal work and stuff pretty much done. This knife is almost 100% finished. It's ready for an edge. We're going to work on the handle now. Okay? So, a few videos ago I kind of put all my stuff out that I thought I might want to use, and just kind of peeked around. I picked this block of True Stone. I think they call this stuff their Jasper patterns, and I've got this really cool hunk of big leaf maple burl that we did in house. This is orange and green, and I figured I don't have a whole lot of it left, but I do have some toxic green and some hunter orange G10 fiberglass to use as liners. This stuff's really cool. It's really stable. Both of these pieces are going to have a butt joint for the handle, which, if you know anything about woodworking and joinery, like just gluing two pieces of wood together like this is not a very strong joint. So to rectify that, I use liners, and again, this is wood. It has been stabilized, but it's wood, so it's gonna move a little bit here and there. The stabilizing stuff shouldn't move at all, but shouldn't move at all would be the key words there. The fiberglass, however, does help to serve as a really sturdy base for everything. There's a few different kinds of liners. People, or I should say knife makers, don't like the vulcanized fiber paper, which I have a piece of that right here too. And I gotta say, like, I've never had a problem with this stuff. It does warp a little bit if you leave it out and it gets soaking wet. Like, I guess if you work in a rainforest or something, then this might be an issue. And that's what everybody says, is if you use that to attach your liners, it's going to warp and your handle's going to crack off. I've never had that happen to me, and I'm just curious if it's people who are using Corby bolts or screws or something. I mean, the epoxy or CA glue, anything that you're going to use to fill that up, as soon as you glue that down on there, it fills those pores. And then I also buffed that part of the handle too, so I'm wondering if that's sealing the pores off and like burnishing it. But anyways, I've never had a problem, and I think for certain colors, the G10 is only available from what I can get. And by the way, you out there in internet TV land, if you make really cool fiberglass sections like this, maybe you make sailboats or surfboards, something cool, and you make all sorts of crazy colors, you should email me immediately. Alright, so anyways, back to my handle making demonstration here. Okay, so we got our two sections. We're gonna cut this G10 out on a metal cutting bandsaw. You need something that cuts metal. This will just shred woodworking tools. And I'm just gonna cut out what I need, this little square. As you can see, like, these sections just kind of, as long as it's enough to make something out of, go ahead and cut it down. So I'm going to glue this to the base, but I also want to do something for in here. The liners come in all shapes and sizes. This is I think this is 1/8 inch, which is one of the thicker pieces I get. Then they start getting down into thousandths. I think this is, I want to say 30 thousandths. I'm not sure. I have to get the micrometer. And then I have even thinner stuff. This is, how about credit card and construction paper. So thick, medium, and then the thin stuff's on the bottom here. And those are really cool to play around with for line thicknesses and whatnot. You can laminate these. I'm actually going to do an orange green for the spacer in here, and then I don't have enough of the orange, unfortunately, to do a whole segment for the handle. Yeah. But I think we'll just do green on this one. I don't want to make it too bright, but I really think that this is going to get insane when we start to buff it. And the True Stone is always really cool on its own. So I'm pretty pumped on this setup so far. I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm just going to cut this out on the bandsaw, and then I'm going to glue this together. It's going to take me a while, and I'm not going to bore you with it. I will say that getting this joint and this joint perfectly flat is super important. I will show you how I flattened these, because I mean, I get them good on my tools, but let's say my clamps, or if I was doing it by hand or something, and they kind of got warped a little bit when they glued, and I got a bow. I'm going to show you how to flatten those out in a very reckless fashion. So stay tuned. I'll be back after I get my blanks set up, and we will continue. It's been a few hours. Everything's glued up and dried, and if you don't know what these are or what this is, you need to go back a few videos. I can't help you. I'm going to assume that you know how to put a clamp on with glue, and we're going to move along. Alright, so I will talk about my glue boards, which are nothing more than and I think it's ABS plastic. I forget the no friction plastic. I got this as a countertop or something from a restaurant, or I forget who gave that to me. It works really well, and glue won't stick to the plastic, but it does get gunked up really fast, and packing tape is cheap and easy. The little shoulder is great to just butt stuff up. Don't use it all the time. I find myself more often than not just pushing them together and getting the clamps on it, and that tends to hold it pretty well. So we have our two book matched pieces here. Most important part is that you can hold these together and that those sections line up. It's not as easy as it sounds. So what we have to do is make sure these are perfectly flat, and they are really close, except for the glue squeeze out here on the bottom, which needs cleaned up. But let's pretend for a second that you had your pieces clamped together, and the pressure of these two sections pushing on the spacer, with the glue being all slippery, it'll tend to push it up and out. So what if this corner here was actually all the way up a little bit, and you had to take enough off that, you know, you could save the scale, but you'd have to get rid of that gap. You could fill it in and it would look horrible because you could see it along the spine, or you could just grind it off, and that's what we're gonna do. I'll put a fresh belt on the grinder, and I will show you how I flatten my pieces and get them ready to glue onto the liner.